Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter.
What's up?
Hello. So it's another episode of Moose and Anthony. I took myself off guard. Usually when I hit record, there's a second option, but today it just went right into the recording, and I had to wing it. I always forget what Dave says at the beginning. I just know I have to say hello really loud when he calls us a goofy name. And today's goofy names are Champion 1 and Champion 2.
Oh.
Oh.
I guess you'll take Champion 1 because you have 3. I have 2. I'm okay with number 2 for now. But I plan on winning some this year, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, you caught me off guard too because there was no countdown before we started the episode. It was just like,
well, that's it. Because usually it gives me a second option before I record, so I was gonna just get my mouse ready, but nope, it jumped us right in. So
okay. It got excited.
A little startled, but anyways, let's get this show on the road.
Yes.
So today we are doing draft rankings. We have all put together our rankings, and we're going to go through them. We're going to quickly go through the top 12 because, in our opinion, that information is easy to find. There's tons of it. You can Google it. But the really important information is what to do after the top 12.
Right.
You know, it's easy to pick the league winners, but it's not always easy to find those gems later on. And we think that's the most important information for you. So Anthony's going to take us through some headlines, and I will, of course, include my banter here and there where I see fit.
Take shots at some of the players that we have some news about, but we'll see.
And hype them up. You know, I'm a good hype man. I'll get some hype going.
Yeah. So I guess the first one, the big one, Carson Wentz returning to practice Monday. This is crazy.
Well, they said in light fat. It's not a full practice. And what's returning to practice? Maybe he's just going to walk around, you know?
Kind of like how Dak was doing in his training camp where he's just there, not throwing. But I mean, it's
super
amazing.
exciting. And like, well done, Carson, if he is healthy.
Yeah. Successful surgery.
Way to go, bud.
It looks good. If he comes back early, it's good for Michael Pittman Jr., who we're high on this year. So hopefully all is good with Carson Wentz and a speedy recovery, and it seems like it's going that way. So that's very good. Some other good news about players returning to practice. Rashod Bateman cleared to run routes. So this is very good for Baltimore because it seemed like only Mark Andrews was going to be the one receiving passes from that team, from Lamar Jackson. So very good news, Rashod Bateman. I know they're expecting big things for him, but I think for redraft, nobody's really looking at him unless it's a late round pick.
It's just Baltimore's too much of a gamble until they can show, you know, like let's equate it to the same thing where last season, you know, you guys were a little bit concerned about Stephon Diggs because, you know, the Bills were a run heavy team traditionally. So everybody was a little bit concerned that Stephon Diggs wouldn't get the ball too much. Let's wait. It's the same kind of thing with Baltimore. Let's wait and see. Do they really want to become a passing team? You know, they invested in some wide receivers. There's been some unfortunate injury, but realistically, until we see them, you know, really start, you know, at least turning some of their strategy into the pass game. Yeah. For a redraft, I would steer clear of Baltimore.
And just, I don't know the exact statistic right now, but Baltimore Ravens hold the longest win streak in preseason game history. They just won their second preseason game of this year, and that basically put them over the hump. They broke the record. So congrats. It doesn't really mean anything.
They've won the most games that don't count.
Exactly. Some other positive injury news. Jaylen Waddle looked like he got smoked or got injured in his second preseason game. I didn't see it. I know you were watching that game.
He was holding his knee, wincing in pain. If anybody's seen that Family Guy episode where Peter hurts his knee, that's what it looked like. Yeah, exactly. They took him to the injury tent for some time. I left to do some other stuff. I came back. When I came back, he was on the field.
Yeah.
So I guess it was just maybe a Charlie horse or something like that, and he seems fine.
Yeah, he appears to be okay, which is very good because I drafted him in Dynasty, and yeah, that wouldn't have been a great start to that season. Jalen Hurts had a little bit of a stomach virus in his in the preseason game on Thursday, I believe. He was expected to start, did not start. Was taken to the hospital, but all appears okay. He didn't have COVID, just a little stomach virus.
He was back at practice, so maybe
Yeah.
he just had a Philly cheesesteak that wasn't so good.
Yeah, that's very possible. Some negative injury news now. Dak injury. It's apparent that it might linger into the season, and I don't know what that means.
It means nothing. It means we want some tasty headlines.
Okay, so you're not. Well, I know we're going to get to the QB rankings in a couple episodes, but you're not dropping him because of this news.
No, I mean,
look, I don't even know where you have him. But
the guy didn't throw a football for a whole year, and then all you got to do is go watch Hard Knocks. He goes out there and he's launching bombs, like taking his muscles to the limit. Well, yeah, of course, 0 to 100, you're gonna get some sore muscles. I don't think it's gonna last the whole season. I'm sure he's gonna get all types of physios. It probably already does. They're taking care of him at practice.
Yeah,
he's gonna be fine. There's quarterbacks who have played through a lot worse. And like I said, these are just tasty headlines, especially while Hard Knocks is going on. Everybody's watching the Cowboys. Everybody wants, this bit of news, that bit of news. And it's just, they're fun headlines.
Okay. Next, this one could be bad, but I haven't heard any update on it. But CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire sprained. It looks like an ankle sprain during the preseason game. Andy Reid says he doesn't believe it to be a high ankle sprain, which would be worse as far considering like the recovery it would take and everything. So there has been no update. Apparently, he was getting checked today. I'm assuming we'll hear something about it tomorrow, but I'm hoping he's okay because he's also one of my keepers. So, I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't a great preseason weekend for me. Well, I guess Jaylen Waddle not being hurt is good for our Dynasty League, but I really hope CEH will start the regular season, which it looks like, a 2-week recovery from an ankle sprain. I think it's feasible that he should be there for week 1.
Just go see Carson Wentz's surgeon.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one, Emmanuel Sanders appears to have a foot issue. Foot issue. It's kind of like this lower body injury and everything. Foot issue. I don't know how serious it is. If it's serious, the stock rises for Gabe Davis, your boy,
big time. Yeah. And if you watch the preseason, he looked real good.
Yeah. He's looking good.
Also, Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley's job is.
Yeah.
Did you see? Well, we'll talk about it. But everybody remember that I said Cole Beasley's job is in question.
Yeah.
And then when we get to it, we get to it.
Yeah. And I guess, yeah, so that's it for the main headlines. But maybe we should touch on some of the preseason games. I know I watched a little bit. I know you were watching some on Saturday.
Well, if we're jumping into preseason games, let's just jump right into the Bills then. Let's just talk about Cole Beasley. Bye-bye, Beasley. Because Isaiah McKenzie is like way better than Cole Beasley. And holy smokes, did they want to get him the ball.
Yep.
And he looked amazing getting the ball.
Yes.
The whole time I was watching the game, I was just thinking to myself, well, if Cole Beasley doesn't get his vaccinations, the first time somebody gets a positive test, he's gone. Isaiah McKenzie's stock through the roof.
Yeah. He looked very good. I watched this game closely too because the Bills, of course, were playing the Bears. The Bears did not look good in this game. I mean, Justin Fields looked okay. I still, like you and I were kind of like not on the same page as Dave as far as when Fields should get put in. I do think he needs a little bit more time to marinate, if that's how you want to say it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to learn to keep his eyes up because, he took a monstrous blindsided hit.
Yeah. Helmet flew off, everything. I was worried, but he's fine. He continued playing, looked okay. Andy Dalton still, I feel has not, like, he made a couple good passes, but I still think the Bears are going to struggle to move the offense.
Here's one thing to note for both quarterbacks. I'll hype up Chicago a little bit.
Oh,
Basically, the only receivers out there, well, of any sort of, I mean, they really just were thrown to the tight ends.
yeah.
I don't think Darnell Mooney or Allen Robinson started.
No.
So I'm saying, people are like, oh, Andy Dalton this, Andy Dalton that, and oh, Justin Fields didn't have the greatest game. They didn't exactly field the best offense for them to have a good day, which is something that I find myself even forgetting in preseason. And I was watching another game, and one of the commentators made that comment, said, "Oh yeah, they want to get one of the backups out there." Oh, it was during the Denver game. They go, "Oh, I don't know if you noticed, but in the second half, a lot of the starters are still out there because they want to give, obviously, since it's such a close competition with Teddy and Drew, they want to make sure that both have starting offense, options to really show. It wouldn't be fair if one guy got the starting team, the other guy got not the starting team."
Right.
So that's one of the things I took away from the Bears game as well, is that there weren't many starters out there for either of Dalton or Fields to really shine with.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, we got to give Dalton a chance. He, like we've mentioned before, he is going to be the better quarterback for the past couple of years for the Bears. They had Trubisky, they had Glennon, they had Foles, and
Trubisky, he looked good. He looked good with the Bills.
He did. But here's another thing about the Bears. Like I think the coaching staff, and they're not on the same level. They're in a different tier than the Buffalo Bills coaching staff. I mean, Buffalo Bills, they're supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. So I mean, Trubisky even made a comment. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he was basically saying like, it's nice to be on a team that is here to help you grow and develop. So,
yeah,
I mean, if the Bills can do something with him, and then he can somehow be a starter on a team in a couple of years, I mean, I'm happy for him. I mean, he did lead us to the playoffs one of the years. I mean, they did make it to the playoffs last year, where he was in as well for some games. So all the best to him.
Yeah. So my two things, Bears, I still think there's a lot more to see from both quarterbacks, and Bills, my takeaway is incredible depth. Yeah. Even their third and fourth string teams look like, they were their thirds look like their seconds look like their first. Just absolutely incredible depth.
Yeah. What I noticed, so there are some players, of course, we've talked about Marquis Dillon mid-rounds and sleepers. So I watched the Jets. Zach Wilson looks great. I know it's only preseason, but I mean, he looks comfortable in that offense. And Corey Davis received a massive target share. And he was one of my sleepers. He's going super late in drafts. He's supposed to be the number one receiver on the team. So, I mean, one thing that you look for in your drafts is you look for value players, but you also want to try and find players that are going to get massive target shares. Like whether you're a running back or a wide receiver, if you're going to get all the targets or most of the targets, or you're going to get, you're like Joe Mixon, a guy we're low on. I think I raised him in my rankings. We'll get to it later on, but he's like pretty much the only guy there. And if they're just going to give him the ball majority of the time, I mean, at some point, if he's healthy, he's going to produce for your fantasy team. So I like seeing Corey Davis getting the ball.
Also, there's a potential new curse in the fantasy football world. The original curse was whomever was on the cover of
Madden,
the Madden video game of that year would have a terrible season or get injured. And, for many years, it was true in some way or another. The individual on the cover, or sometimes they started doing two, did not have a great season. But now I'm thinking that it's the Robert Saleh curse. Since last year when he was with the 49ers, there was piles of injuries with the San Francisco 49ers. And then yesterday, I was doing things around the house. I had the Jets game on, and it seemed like every time I came back to the TV, there was another Jets player injured and being taken off the field.
Yeah.
So who knows? This is just one man's observations.
Yeah, it's not good. They lost a key defensive player the week before as well. Lawson, his name's slipping my mind now. But yeah, they're one of the teams that are having injury issues, like the most injury issues so far. So it's not great. It's not great for them. I know they had high hopes for this season, but oh yeah, it's Carl Lawson, defensive end Carl Lawson, who's supposed to lead their defense, be the captain of the defense. He's done for the season, torn Achilles. Some other preseason games. I know you and I were talking about how bad Atlanta looked against.
Yeah.
Who do they play against now? It's slipping my mind. Miami. Tua looked good. We were talking about Waddle, looked like he was hurt, but Tua seems to be moving the offense.
Gaskin and the Miami running game also looked really good.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, they do look good. I think, like I mentioned before, I think with the three guys that they got there, I think they're going to be kind of like a San Francisco type timeshare for the running backs.
And again, I won't just throw Atlanta in the mud here. The same thing that I noticed with them is really none of their starters were playing.
Right.
And then who's their backup? The backup quarterback. And to me, I was watching a few games yesterday, and I mean, I guess everybody's trying to show their skill, but for me, for a quarterback to run in the preseason, it seems like a bonkers thing. And I forget, I can't remember the name of their backup quarterback right now, but he ran, and he's now has a knee injury.
I'm pulling it up. Falcons, there was two. So AJ McCarron.
It's McCarron, AJ McCarron.
AJ
So
McCarron.
for me, like I like I said, I get it. The quarterback's trying to show, hey, look, I could run for 10 yards if I had to. But in preseason, like, you're the quarterback. Why would you take a needless hit?
But I mean, if you're competing for the backup position, and I mean to keep your
but now he's out. Now he's out for the season.
He's out. But I mean, McCarron's not making his way as a starter on any team. I know when he came into the league, he was expected to because he played well in college, or he was a great college player. But I mean, he's not going to make it on a team because of his passing. I guess he has to show a skill as a runner and try to make it on a team. But
yeah, but show it at practice. Show it at practice when another team is not trying to drill you. Yeah. It seems like any injury in the preseason really sort of cuts deep because, in effect, the game doesn't really count for anything. And, it sucks, especially when the injury is a season ender.
Yeah. And then apart from that, I mean, there were a few boring games. I expect to see some decent play from the Washington Cincinnati game. I was bored to death. Fitzpatrick couldn't. I don't think it's Fitzpatrick's fault, but McLaurin was on the field, I believe, for a little bit. Gibson got in there. Gibson looks good. Gibson looks strong. I'm not worried about the foot, but it was just a boring game. It seemed like none of the offenses could get anything going at the start of the game. So it was pretty boring. Kansas City, just keynote, Mecole Hardman. He was a sleeper as well for me. He's looking good. Yeah,
and there's one thing I want to say about Mecole Hardman, because I know people listening go, "Oh, Mecole Hardman." So he missed quite a few passes. He was overshot a few times, underthrown a few times. He made it a really spectacular touchdown catch. But here's what you have to think about is that Travis Kelce was out there, but in no way was he playing at Travis Kelce levels, and Tyreek Hill wasn't out there.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're trying to light up Mecole Hardman, when defenses are trying to cover CH, Kelce, Hill, Mecole Hardman's going to be out there catching balls, and he's going to look good doing it.
Yeah. That was one thing we talked about, that he wasn't on the field that much last year. Like, I guess he could be assumed to be the wide receiver too, but he'll be on the field more. They said they want to get him on the field more.
He also had COVID issues a bunch last year. I've seen that too. People are like, well, he didn't play much last year. Well, I think he had a small injury than COVID, and I think it was just kind of like, well, let's just sit this year out kind of thing. But the other thing to take away is that, so I've been a big supporter of Mecole Hardman, so I'm hyping him up a little bit here. But what I noticed was when, Patrick overthrew him, or, maybe Mecole Hardman didn't, quite get the catch, they were laughing it off. To me, the Chiefs are so good, and I think they practice so well that preseason game was just like another practice, and they weren't out there trying to make plays or whatever. They were trying to do something different. They're like, oh, let's see if this route works, and so to me, I wasn't walking away being like, oh, it's Byron Pringle. Byron Pringle is taking over. It's going to be Demarcus Robinson. No, I think it's still going to be McCole Hardman as the second wide receiver there.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's not too much that I want to get into. I mean, I'm gonna enjoy watching the game tomorrow, Jacksonville, New Orleans. See Trevor Lawrence out there a little bit. Maybe if we can get a little bit of an idea who he's going to build a rapport with as far as the receiving core. I know Marvin Jones Jr. looked good the first preseason game. New Orleans, seeing the quarterbacks go at it, because I mean, it didn't look great the first one. So yeah, excited for that one tomorrow. And of course, right now it's the Chargers against San Francisco playing as we're recording. It's halftime. It's 10-8 Chargers, San Francisco. It's also nothing really exciting to watch right now. I guess I'll check the highlights for Trey Lance a little later, and we'll talk about it maybe next episode. But yeah, I think it's time to move on.
All right, was that all the preseason games?
Yeah, those are all the ones I want to talk about. I know you watched a little bit more than I did. I don't know if you wanted to talk a bit about Pittsburgh or
Najee Harris finally broke off a huge run. 46 yards off a short pass. Looked really good.
Apparently, I heard the rookie tight end Freiermuth. Am I saying that right? Freiermuth. Freiermuth caught 2 TDs.
Yes.
But I think I would tell people, don't buy into the hype with Pittsburgh tight ends. Like, they like using the tight end, but they don't, like, they'll get hot one game and then they won't appear for 2, and then they'll get hot another game. So they're very inconsistent, but don't, and he's a rookie too. So what we've talked about for rookie tight ends, usually it takes a couple, 2-3 years for them to develop and be used on an offense, excluding Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and I mean, let's even, like, we always do this with Kansas City, but here's a equal example in Pittsburgh. So it's probably Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, then Claypool or Juju. Then maybe we're considering the tight ends.
Yeah.
So it's quite a lot of, the tight ends are pretty low on the pecking order, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe we could look at it the other way too. Maybe if we assume that, all those other options will have the defense, maybe they are looking to hit that tight end position. But
yeah,
Eric Ebron is also there. He, of course, dropped his first pass.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric.
But somehow he'll still get 5-6 TDs and probably like 200 yards on the year.
Yeah, I think if you find yourself in a draft situation where, for whatever reason, you haven't taken a tight end and you find yourself at the bottom of the barrel, if Pat Freiermuth, Tuck, if he's still there, pick him up.
Oh, and to address tight ends a little bit more, to go back on the game, Jimmy Graham did get out there this second preseason game for Chicago. Yep. So stay tuned for our tight end rankings. I know when we were talking about who might find themselves in and out as far as finishing in the top 12, I might have to, as far as drafting tight ends in the top 12, I might have to remove Kmet out of it just because of Jimmy Graham. Not put Jimmy Graham in, but just remove them both out. As far as like maybe let the hype, like I said, 2-3 years before they develop. So I mean, Cole Kmet will definitely be better than last year, but with Graham there, might not have. It seems like Graham has a little bit of skill left in the tank. He's not that old.
I was gonna say he didn't look so old.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, I think those were the key things. Oh, you want to mention the New England backfield. So I know I had mentioned that the first preseason game, it seemed like they were using
should I just take off here? Should I just start talking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not as high as Anthony and Dave are on Damian Harris.
Yeah.
And now I'm even lower on Damian Harris because of the preseason game that just happened.
Yeah.
Damian Harris looked good. Sonny Michel looked all right. Rahamondre looked incredible. And
Yeah.
then what's
James
his
White.
name? Oh, I didn't even see James White, but JJ Taylor.
Oh yeah, JJ Taylor.
Is that his
Yeah.
name? JJ Taylor
Yeah.
goes out there, also looks amazing.
Yeah. We forgot
So
about him, mentioning him before.
So I get it. Like, it's preseason. They're not playing against the starting defense, but just seeing the skill level of all these guys and all the where they're all different skill levels lie even leads me to believe more
Yeah.
that and the other thing too is all of them are catching passes.
Yeah.
Which is also highly concerning, because that means it's not like there's a running a running back and a pass catching back. They're all going to probably do a bit of everything. And so for me, more than ever, I feel that the New England backfield is going to be just as confusing as every other year, and putting too much stock into one of them is going to cost you.
Yeah. I would have to agree after watching that second preseason game. So I might drop Damien Harris a little lower as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the point stands, like, you can get Damien Harris super late in a draft, but just make sure you take him super late.
Yeah, super late. Yeah. So those are our takeaways for preseason. I mean, it's still only preseason. I mean, so like we can't read into too much hype. I think what's key is like seeing these rookie QBs get out there, like Zach Wilson, and see who they're targeting. And that's why I said tomorrow it'll be interesting for Trevor Lawrence to see who he's going to throw to this game. Is it still Marvin Jones Jr.? Because I know Dave was talking a little bit before that he expects him to still be or like wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 on the team. And I was like, well, you still got DJ Chark there, who's super talented. I know he let a lot of people down last year, but I mean, he's the young stud, and Marvin Jones is getting old, finding himself on, like, I don't know, his 4th team. I mean,
I do have one more bit of preseason, because I watched a bit of the Seahawks game.
Okay.
I don't even remember who they were playing. Because I was just watching the Seahawks. Can you drum up who they were playing?
Actually, I want to hear what you have to say about this. That they played the Broncos. I want to know how the
Broncos.
Oh,
right. Well, like I said, I was busy all day, so I was sort of just watching games and then going to do stuff. So I was mostly watching Seattle.
Yeah.
And one thing I noted was that Rashod Penny does not look good. It's Chris Carson, and then there's a heavy drop off in that backfield. Alex Collins was out there quite a bit, but also he looks really shifty, but it's not like he's moving forward. Like, he's literally being shifty in place and not going forward. And I don't think Rashod Penny got more than like 4 yards on a run. Like, he just seemed to run into contact and then tip over.
Rashod Penny. Let's see. He just had 8 yards. On the day. Josh Johnson, Alex Collins. Carson's of course not going to play. He's an injury-prone guy. But Broncos, I know they're getting Royce Freeman in there a little bit.
Royce Freeman looked faster.
Yeah,
he looked more like the running back he was, expected to be.
He had 44 receiving yards and 27 rush yards. Like, they're using him in the receive game too.
Yeah, he looked a lot faster. I think he's by no means is he going to be a league winner, but he might be a guy, like, if your fantasy team suffers injuries, Royce Freeman might be a good waiver wire pickup or a backup stash.
Yeah.
Of course, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are there. So who knows how much production he'll get. But, should the availability of him, being used, let's say, in that Phillip Lindsay role, it's possible.
I know KJ Hamler caught a touchdown, and then Jerry Jeudy was hit by Teddy Bridgewater. It looked like Teddy Bridgewater played well. He had 105 passing yards, 1 TD. Drew Lock 80 yards, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions. So, I mean, they're both moving the offense, which is good for, I guess, players we're excited about. It seems like KJ Hamler might be a surprise receiver this year, a late value. I know they're pretty deep, but Jerry Jeudy, I guess, he showed up this game compared to the first one. I know I was pretty critical of him in the first preseason game.
Well, let's hold this because aren't we getting into this a little later on?
Sure.
Well, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's hold this. We'll talk about Denver a little bit later on in our They Said It on Reddit segment.
Yeah.
I believe it concerns Denver. So we'll dive into the wide receiver core a little bit more then.
Yeah.
But we're going to move into rankings.
Yes, let's do it.
Draft rankings. All right, here we go. So today we're going to be doing running back draft rankings. So David, myself, and Anthony have ranked in order in which we would draft these running backs. And we've calculated our consensus, and we will share them with you now. So our first 12 are pretty much the same. There's a few running backs, which Anthony will tell you in a minute, that, you know, one of us has one or above, or I think I have someone in the top 12 that these guys don't. But for the most part, let's say like the top 10 to 12, they're the exact same. So yeah. I'll list them, and then Anthony will tell you which ones are different. So starting at number 1, we have Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Antonio Gibson, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler at number 12.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, there's not that much discrepancy in the top 12. There are 2 or 3 players of note to mention here. So we'll start with Moose's rankings. He has Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the top 12, whereas Dave and I have him outside the top 12, and you have
to be clear,
yeah,
it's a draft order, so I would draft him within my first 12 options.
Yeah, and then the player that you removed is Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
So where Dave and I both have Eckler in the top 12. So if you could just give a little explanation. I know we've talked about this before. I kind of know the reasons why. I think you mentioned there's something about Eckler that rubs you the wrong way.
There's no real reason, Anthony. I can't explain myself. This is a gut call.
Yeah.
I've never wanted Austin Eckler on my team for whatever reason. And I honestly, the reason why I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there is because I think that Chiefs offense, it's going to be high powered. They're going to be passing. They're going to be running.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. Obviously, this sounds silly since we've just said that he has a sprained ankle, but you know, I did these rankings. Well, I guess I did them knowing he had a sprained ankle, but if he's healthy, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is more likely to have a better season than he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a pretty decent season last year.
That he did.
And I guess Anthony, if you honestly want, here's my reason behind Austin Eckler. I don't think they're going to be a run heavy team.
Yeah, but I agree. I think it's where Eckler will be the most successful is his receiving side of the ball. Like he'll get his fair share of rushing yards. He'll probably, if he does finish in the top 12, he'll probably have the lowest rushing yards out of the top 12. That's for sure. But he'll be among the top, like last year, I believe, as far as receiving yards for running backs, it was Kamara, and then it was like Naeem Hines and J.D. McKissick. I think Eckler will be number 2 to Alvin Kamara this coming season. So I get your point, and we touched upon him a little bit either last episode or a couple episodes ago, where he really only showed what he can really do when Melvin Gordon held out. Other than that, last season, he was injured for the entire season. Pretty much he came back towards the end, but it's not enough to see what he can do. He was fantasy relevant when he did come back, but for a full season, it'll be interesting to see how productive he will be for your fantasy team. Yeah. So these two players...
And I'm probably wrong. It's just I can never bring myself.
Yeah.
It's like when giving you a hard time about Aaron Jones last season.
Yeah.
I think I need to see more Austin.
Right. And it's funny that these two players that we're talking about, they're both my keepers in the keeper league. So, I mean, you talking up CEH, me having him a bit lower, and then Dave, having Eckler up there and me having Eckler up there. It's a good place to be. But I think these two running backs need to prove themselves. I have Eckler at 10th. Dave has him at 12th. So just making it in. So, I mean, where you have and where we'll talk about when we go to the 13-24 is really not that big of a discrepancy either. And then the last person to mention for the top 12 for some, and I think of myself as the guy who's been highest on it. No, I do have him in there. So it's only those two players that we really have the discrepancy with. Yeah.
All right. So should we get into the juicy portion of this? The moment everyone's been waiting for.
Yeah.
Here we go. Starting at number 13, Myles Gaskin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson, Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Darrell Henderson, Mike Davis, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, and Chris Carson at 24.
Yeah. So, I mean, the main one here would be Myles Gaskin. I do not have Myles Gaskin in my top 24. Not because I don't think he's talented. I just don't want to draft a running back in my top 24
from Miami
and a crowded Miami backfield. So I had mentioned the first preseason game. I'm going to check the stats here in a second from the second preseason game, but they used Myles Gaskin, they used Salvin Ahmed, and there's always a third guy I'm forgetting.
Malcolm Brown.
They used the three of them equally the first game. I know it's preseason. You're trying stuff out. Maybe you're trying to figure out who your lead back is or who's going to get most of the touches. But I mean, I have a feeling that if kind of like Tampa Bay or kind of like LA last year, where if somebody fumbles the ball, then they might take a step back for a couple games. And I don't know what their discipline is going to be like for the backfield as far as, fumbling the ball or as far as how much, how many games they'll be given to, be productive and like be their lead guy. So I don't know. I think they're just going to use them all equally. We don't know who's going to run in the ball in the red zone. I mean, Malcolm Brown's supposed to be that guy. Myles Gaskin seems like a back that can do everything. And then Salvin Ahmed seems to be more of a receiving type running back as well. I just don't want to draft a guy on a team that I don't know who's going to get most of the touches. And I mean we could put Malcolm Brown there.
Yeah. Here's the thing is, I agree with you. And obviously it's a Miami player, so I'm not that thrilled about drafting him. However, Myles Gaskin might be a Miami player I would consider. If I was backed into a corner and somebody said you have to draft Myles Gaskin, I might do it. And what I think is going to happen, and it's actually probably unfortunate, but I also believe that Miami is going to be running the ball a lot this season. Myles Gaskin is going to be the guy who's going to get it down the field. Malcolm Brown's going to punch it in.
Yeah. I had mentioned, so one of our headlines last week for the preseason games was that Malcolm Brown seemed to get more of the reps, and then, is it hype? So again, he had 10 carries yesterday, 43 yards and a touchdown. He had the most yards. There's another running back, Jared Dokes, 30 yards, 7 carries. Myles Gaskin, 6 carries, 27 yards, and a touchdown. So I do think Myles Gaskin is probably the most talented back on the team, and the most like the back that can do both. He can punch it in, he can receive. I just think one of the guys, and Salvin Ahmed didn't do like he was lower on the stat line yesterday. Patrick Laird made an appearance with 2 yards.
Oh, Patrick.
But yeah, so it's probably not fair to remove Gaskin from the top 24 because he'll most likely finish within it. But I do think that they're just going to go with the hot hand from week to week. So for me, I don't want to draft a guy that I'm not sure will get the majority of the reps.
All right. So you heard it here first. I'm not taking him unless I'm backed into a corner because he's from Miami. Anthony's not doing it because it looks like a committee backfield back there. You also don't have James Robinson. Explain yourself.
Yeah. So I don't have James Robinson because I just think Travis Etienne is going to take over. Just to look at your guys' teams, like, so you're the
What about the headlines? What about the headlines that have said,
that
Robinson's the guy?
I mean, I'm not buying it. I did mention that I do think he'll start off the season strong, and then Travis Etienne will take over. I I mean, a lot of people are expecting a Chubb, Kareem Hunt type situation.
Yeah.
Until I see it, I won't believe it. I still think they're going to be a bad team, and they're going to have to throw the ball more. And I mean, Travis Etienne's going to be the receiving back. He's the more diverse back. So Dave has James Robinson 23rd and Travis Etienne 24th. So that seems to me like a cop out that he just doesn't know which one to take.
I have James Robinson all the way
yeah.
up at 19. I'm buying it, man. I'm buying it. There's no
Yeah.
way. I don't care, man. You don't have a guy on your team who did what James Robinson did last year and just say, nah, you're talented, but nah, we're just going to replace you. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They're going to play James Robinson until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Where I would rank him is probably 25th. I have Travis Etienne at 24. I don't
What a
think
cop out. What a cop out. Just
I
put them
know
one right after each other.
Yeah, I know. I might move like that would really not be fair if I move him even lower. But to be honest, I don't. I think Travis Etienne is just like I said. I predict that he can win you leagues. So towards the back half of the season.
Okay, so let's step out of fantasy because you're right. He could win you leagues. But let's step out of fantasy. Why would a team that's rebuilding, who has a very capable running back, suddenly put that running back to the side and potentially burn out their brand new rookie? And this is the important thing to remember is that James Robinson isn't on a 5-year contract. He's on a 3-year contract because he was a UDFA. So why not just let the man run? And Travis Etienne can slowly get introduced to the game. And whatever, if Travis Etienne starts lighting it up, fine, by all means, then, put him in. But I can't see a world where James Robinson is just pushed to the side.
Yeah. I mean, so this is our personal rankings. It's not like our stats. So I would draft Travis Etienne above James Robinson because I know we just said Dave has James Robinson in one spot ahead. I would draft Travis Etienne, like just looking at how we were talking about rookies, like be patient with rookies. They might not show up at the beginning, maybe more towards the end. The reason why I'm drafting Travis Etienne over James Robinson is because I think he can be your league winner
at 25
and
James Robinson at 26.
But I don't think Jacksonville is gonna run the ball as much as let's say they did last year.
I think they might, Anthony.
Maybe.
Well, think about it. If they're still having a quarterback competition, that means something's not working in the passing game potentially.
Right, but also don't forget that Trevor Lawrence loves to run the ball too. So
but that's my point. Like if he was lighting it up at practice, there would be no question.
Right, but you have a third guy now that's going to be taking some yards away and maybe a couple touchdowns away. I do think the rapport with Travis Etienne being linked to Trevor Lawrence is the advantage later on. But again, probably unfair. But I think Dave, looking at his team, this next player that I want to bring up, who Dave is the highest on, but doesn't have him in his top 24, is Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson, and
we skipped a few here. Let's just go over them quickly.
Okay.
We don't have to talk about them too much. Kareem Hunt, why wouldn't it be different from last year? I mean, I think it's going to be the same 1-2 punch with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
I don't know why anything would change. If anything, Kareem Hunt might get more touches.
Right.
After last season.
Kareem Hunt, after the legal issues he had a few years ago when he was playing for Kansas City, was a lead back in the NFL. So, I mean, they have two essentially top 12 talents on the team in the backfield, and we've seen them live cohesively. So, I mean, we hope to see that from Robinson and Travis Etienne, but I don't know. I just feel more comfortable with Travis Etienne.
And then next we have J.K. Dobbins. We've spoken about J.K. Dobbins before. Dave's very high on J.K. Dobbins. So is Anthony. I'm not there. I think
you have
Baltimore.
17.
Yeah, Baltimore is going to be all over the place. They don't know if they want to be a passing team, a running team. Lamar Jackson's going to be running all over the place. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. I don't know. I don't want any part of that mess. He's very talented. Not saying that he's not talented. If you want to ride that train, go for it. But it's not for me.
Just out of curiosity, because they, like you mentioned, they have Gus Edwards there. let's just bring a name that a running back that would have been on this list that's not there because of injury, Cam Akers, who has a crowded backfield as well. And I kind of put in the same category as J.K. Dobbins. Would you have been higher on Cam Akers than J.K. Dobbins, or rank them kind of similar? I just getting idea, because for me,
that's a great example. The difference is they went and got Cam Akers because Darrell Henderson never showed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he was supposed to be the replacement, didn't do it. Malcolm Brown outplayed him. Then they went and got Cam Akers.
Yeah.
I think they drafted Justice Hill one year. Justice Hill never did anything. They brought in J.K. Dobbins, and then it's always sort of been the J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards show.
Right.
If Lamar Jackson isn't running it himself.
But what I feel,
Now they go and they say, hey, we want to be a pass catching team. They go out and get a couple wide receivers.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what's it going to be? Like, you guys going to try and toss it? You guys going to be a run heavy team again? So I'm sure I'm not saying that J.K. Dobbins isn't going to be a valuable fantasy asset this season. He probably will be, but he's not one that I'm chasing. That's not how I'm going to win my season.
So I have him 13th, like Dave. The reason why I put him there is because, like you said, Baltimore, they want to throw the ball more. They go out and get these receivers. They definitely need to have more support for the passing game for Lamar Jackson. But I always feel like they always have 3 running backs in the backfield, but it always seems like there is a big difference with the final stat line for all the running backs on the team. So like Mark Ingram was there, and they had a couple youngsters 2 years ago that were there and supposed to be up and coming and need to prove themselves. And then Ingram kills it. Like, nobody expected Ingram to have one of his top seasons ever. And then last year, it was a little bit of a mess, Ingram getting injured, and then, trying to get J.K. Dobbins comfortable and Gus Edwards, getting him involved because he's been there for forever, trying to make a name for himself. So I just feel that maybe it'll start off slow, but the pass game is not going to be good. And they're going to have to go to their original game plan of just running the ball with Lamar Jackson and these running backs. So to take a little pressure off of Lamar Jackson, they're going to have to go to Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. But I do think J.K. Dobbins is the more talented back, and that volume wise, I mean, compared to some of these other players that we've talked about, he's going to get the volume, even with Gus Edwards there. So maybe a little high when we haven't seen that much from him yet. But yeah, I think it's a pretty safe pick at 13. And then, just to mention before, you have Eckler at 13. So, I mean, you had him outside the top 12. He's just right there. And you seem to be the highest on Josh Jacobs. Again, not that big of a difference, but you are drafting him above guys like David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon, Chris Carson, whereas I think Dave and I have Dave stuck to his word, raised Joe Mixon, because the hype on Joe Mixon, like, a lot of people seem to be higher on him. I mean, maybe it's that volume that we talk about.
But Joe Mixon's great as long as he can stay on the field.
Yeah.
He's becoming more and more of an injury risk every season.
Yeah. I raised him a bit too. Originally on my rankings I had written down, I had him at 22. I moved him up to 18. But but getting back to Josh Jacobs, so I think a lot of people are pretty low on Josh Jacobs. I know I have him lower than you, but
you jump, Anthony.
I'm jumping.
You're jumping all over.
But I was comparing Mixon to Jacobs at the beginning.
We weren't even talking about any of these guys. We were talking about J.K. Dobbins, and then he just got wild. I didn't even know where you were going with it.
We finished J.K. Dobbins. It was done.
No, you didn't. In the same breath, you just started rolling off onto a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay, so you lead into it then.
I stopped listening. I stopped listening to you because you were on some wild tangent all over the place here.
Right after J.K. Dobbins, we went. I know, but
you never stopped. You never were like, all right, we're done with J.K. Dobbins. On to the next one. You just, in the same breath, you just started going, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon. So we had J.K. Dobbins at 17. Moving on to 18. See how I did that, Anthony?
Yeah, but we didn't.
Now it's very clear. No, we didn't. We spoke about Myles Gaskin at 13, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 14, James Robinson at 15, Kareem Hunt at 16, J.K. Dobbins at 17. Now at 18, Javonte Williams.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about your Eckler. That's why I mentioned Eckler, because you have.
But we did. We spoke about Eckler at length before.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say where you had him, just to show that you are low, but not that low.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Would you like to say something about Javonte Williams?
Sure. Javonte Williams should be high because Melvin Gordon seems to have these lingering issues, injury issues, off the field issues.
There's also, from what I recall, there's a lingering DUI.
Yes. So at some point that'll be settled, and who knows when it will hit, and he might miss a couple games depending what happens with that. So I mean, Melvin Gordon, you draft a running back that high in the draft because you eventually want to work him in to be your guy. And Melvin Gordon, of course, I mean, stat wise for fantasy football, looked decent last year, had a decent finish.
Say it, Anthony. Say it.
What?
He looked old.
He looked old. But Javonte Williams looks good in the preseason. Seems like he could be their every down back. So I'm high on him, probably a little too high. I personally, maybe not too high. I think I'm not even the highest on him.
I think Javonte Williams is a prime example of a rookie you're going to have to wait on. I think he's going to, I think he's going to be very talented, but you're going to have to wait because Melvin Gordon will be out there. They are going to play Melvin Gordon. Javonte Williams will get his time, but I think Javonte Williams, you'll really reap the benefits end of the season. I think he's one of these guys, if you pick him up, don't, whatever, first couple of weeks, he may not see a lot. Don't drop him. Hang on to him. By the end of the season, he's going to be featured a lot. But I think from the small amount that I saw, I think he needs reps. He needs reps to really get into a rhythm. And once he gets into the rhythm of the NFL, he's going to be spectacular. But I think he's a guy we might have to wait on. And I could be wrong. And that's
so you're not buying his
even better
hype.
For you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm buying the hype. I'm just saying the hype's going to come in time. Yeah. He's one of the guys like we were talking about with Justin Jefferson, where hype, you get him, and the first 3 to 4 weeks, he's not doing that great. Don't drop him. Just hang on.
Yeah.
He's just getting accustomed to the NFL. Maybe he needs a little injury from Melvin Gordon, and boom, he's going to get out there and he's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But, I don't think he's going to be like a day one like fantasy producer. But I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, well, thank goodness you drafted him and hung on to him.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason why I have him up there is because I do think that of the rookies that he'll be the one, and you have him higher than I do by one spot, but I do think that he'll get in there. I'm buying the hype that they said he could potentially start the season as the lead back.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. Like he has the talent. Yeah. But for me, just with the Melvin Gordon situation, I think it's going to be a couple of weeks before we really see what Javonte can do in the league.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Anthony, now you see what I'm going to do here? I'm going to go, all right, moving on to our next person at 19. We have Darrell Henderson.
Right. So, as I mentioned before, when I jumped to it, Dave.
We finally got here, Anthony. It took us a little while, but we made it.
So, Moose and I have expressed our feelings about Darrell Henderson in the past. The reason why they drafted Cam Akers, and Cam Akers is the lead back there, but obviously not playing this year due to injury, is that Darrell Henderson just can't stay healthy and he just can't cut it as the lead back. Dave is supposed to be the highest on him, but is nowhere to be found in Dave's rankings. So
they're going to say, but Dave is nowhere to be found.
And he's nowhere to be found. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, so you've kind of ruined the episode a little bit because we know you're high on Darrell Henderson. Yeah. So your list is...
Dave was upset that Anthony and I didn't banter enough last episode when it was just Anthony and I.
Yeah.
I feel like we've done adequate bantering.
Yeah.
I had to bust your chops there a little bit because you got your numbers wrong.
Jumping all up.
Yeah, we agree on Darrell Henderson. What do you want from us, Dave?
Yeah. So I don't know where you would actually have him, Dave.
Dave doesn't eat. Oh, because he doesn't even have him in the top 24.
That's it. So I don't know where he'd put him. So right now I'm the highest on him I have him ranked 20th. I do think because they don't have many other options on the team. I know Xavier
Jones. I'll look at this. I'll look it up.
Xavier, that player. I know he's looked pretty good and could be or is the backup to Darrell Henderson right now. And some people are saying he could take over for Darrell Henderson if he, has injury issues and still be productive. But I mean, we talk about volume, like we've mentioned a couple times already.
Xavier Jones.
Darrell Henderson has the volume right now. He will get most of the touches. So, I mean, productivity will be up there. Even if he doesn't wow you with a stat line at every game, he'll have enough, to be relevant to your fantasy team. So that's why I have him at 20 and you have him at 24.
I mean, I have him at 24 because I wouldn't be upset if he was my RB2, but I'd love to be able to have him in my flex or something like that.
Yeah, that's the ultimate.
I'd feel super comfortable with Darrell Henderson in my flex. And I'd be cautious. I'd hope that the reason why he's my RB2 is because I loaded up elsewhere.
And you said perfectly. That is the spot for him, the flex spot, because, you can reap the benefits from him earlier on. And when he fizzles out because of injury or whatever else, just not being as productive as the team would like, then, you slot in one of your deep wide receivers that you have stashed away on your bench, and then you slot that guy in your flex. So, I mean, flex spot is perfect for him.
Anthony, do you want to do the next name?
Yes, I'll do it. So this is a key one to mention because there is a discrepancy with this player as well amongst the three of us. Mike Davis at number 20. So again, volume. He's the only guy there that I really see. There are more people. I know there have been mentioned.
For those listening, I did a mild shock face.
Yeah. So I forget the other player's name. And the reason why I forgot, because I don't think that player will be relevant at all. I think Mike Davis will have a lot of volume as long as he's healthy. He'll make his way. And it's the same thing as Darrell Henderson.
So that's a big thing. So the one thing that always grabs me is anytime I'm reading something about Mike Davis, it's Mike Davis, a career backup running back. That's not super exciting. And I get it. People get better. We've seen it. You see a lot of undrafted guys who are Austin Eckler was an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
You see guys like that and they rise to the top, same like James Robinson. So sure. I think Mike Davis could probably do it. We saw him do it last year, but a little bit of skepticism. I'm not 100% sure. And, rave reviews of Kadri Olison out of camp.
Yes, that's his name.
Haven't heard much. Honestly, I haven't heard much Mike Davis hype other than people in fantasy being like, "Whoa, Mike Davis! Look what he did last year. He's going to do it for the Falcons." I know Todd Gurley's not the best example, but Todd Gurley goes out there, is supposed to be this amazing back for the Falcons. Didn't really pan out. And then you hear rave reviews about the number 2, and then I would say after that it starts to float off. Cordarrelle Patterson, Javian Hawkins. He's a small guy, very elusive, could catch passes, but, not much hype around him either. Huntley, I don't know his first name.
Yeah.
Huntley fumbled the ball preseason. Not a great start.
But 6 touches yesterday, 57 yards, a touchdown. And making an appearance, Deontay Foreman. 9 carries, the most on the team yesterday.
Is it Donta? I always
apostrophe.
I always say
Donta.
Deonta.
Is it Deonta? I don't know how to pronounce it.
People say Donta.
Okay. So I guess D apostrophe would be a Donta, like in Quebec here where we speak French. That's I guess how it would be pronounced, Donta.
Yeah. Anyways, if Donta, if you're listening, please let us know.
But yeah, so 9 carries, 24 yards, touchdown, nothing exciting. I mean, they're just trying all of them. Yeah,
Atlanta's backfield, like it could be anyone. Honestly, I think anyone has an opportunity to emerge
to be the backup to Mike Davis. Mike Davis didn't play.
But my point is, like, I'm not fully convinced that Mike Davis will be spectacular. So, like, everybody's assuming that Mike Davis is going to repeat what he did last season.
Exactly. It's the assumption. I think why people are high on him, like he's still going, I guess, later than you would expect for being a number 1 running back, rightfully so. It's his first opportunity as being the number 1 on the team, not taking over for somebody. So, I mean, it could go bad. It could not be productive, and then they could go somewhere else. And plus, Atlanta is going to be terrible. So, I mean, they're not going to run the ball as much as people might think. They might have to air the ball down the field, kind of like they did last year. But I think the touches will be there, the carries will be there. He won't wow you. It's a perfect spot to be 23, 24. I don't know how low you'd actually put him, but we were talking about how Damian Harris could be a late value because he's the number one running back super late in drafts. But I mean, Mike Davis, just right now, how it seems, and like we don't know. So we know somebody will emerge as the talented back at RB2 on the team, but right now we don't know who. And I mean, Mike Davis is locked in there. So that's
again, I see Mike Davis as being same as Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if he's my second running back, even happier if he's my flex.
So, I mean, if you get your early tight ends and you go early receiver and you waited on running back, he would be the perfect guy to go. I guess you're not excited, but he would be a decent enough back to run on your team as an RB2, let's say.
All right, here we go. Now you can get into your wild man
Josh
Jacobs explanations.
Well, let's let you go first because you're the highest on him. So you have him at 14 in your rankings. Yeah. I have him at 16 along with Dave at 16.
Yeah, I know you guys think that Kenyon Drake is going to take away from him. I don't see that at all. I think he's still going to be Josh Jacobs. He's still going to get tons of opportunity. And he's a fantastic running back. So if you get him as your RB2, I think you're doing swell.
I was one of the, so I wasn't. I don't think I'm agreeing with you with Kenyon Drake that it's only there to give some, give a breath to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll eat too much into it. I mean,
and he's already injured.
Yeah,
Kenyon Drake's already slightly hampered,
which is normally his issue. He's always hampered by something.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess Dave doesn't think Kenyon Drake will eat into Josh Jacobs' stats too much because he has him where I have him. I mean, you have him at 14, we have him at 16. So I mean, the discrepancy, there's no big discrepancy on where we rank him. And he's like super talented and he's been super productive since he's gone into the NFL. So I just don't see him dropping.
And honestly, I can't believe I find myself saying this. It's really hard. And I know I'm putting a lot on Derek Carr's shoulders. If Derek Carr can be whatever year that was before he got the injury, Derek Carr, I think Las Vegas could be a very good team. They've especially at least on offense.
Yeah.
I think they could I think the only thing holding them back is Derek Carr.
Derek Carr.
They've got speed, they've got size,
Yeah, and it's kind of like when I look at our consensus, the fact that he somehow made it below Mike Davis and Darrell Henderson and even Javonte Williams is just crazy. But I mean, I guess we're getting excited about some players, a little too excited.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll post them, but chances are how the preseason goes, rankings change. We have our drafts coming up. Things might change. Our tiers might change. But yeah, for now, like if Josh Jacobs is ranked 21 or he drops to that consensus rank on other platforms too. I mean, if you get Josh Jacobs that late, you're happy. Like you should not be worried at all.
Okay, moving on to the next one, we got David Montgomery, which I think I have I think I have a discrepancy in mind. Oh no, Dave has him the lowest.
Yeah. Dave has him the lowest. You and I have him ranked at 15. Dave has him at 18.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not really thrilled about David Montgomery. The only thing that I think I always put him maybe a little bit higher is because of the workload.
Yeah. Again,
that's it. But if you look at last season, he didn't do much until he was playing the easiest defenses at the end of the season. So, I mean, it brings into a lot of question of how talented he is. He was also he was the only back there, but he is supposed to be a 3-down back, so that's no real excuse either.
Yeah. Maybe just is taking a little bit longer for him to really show who he is. I mean, we'll see. Like, we don't know how easy their schedule will be. We don't know which.
But we do. The schedule is out. We just don't have it in front of us.
Yeah, but like what I was getting to is that like, are the same teams going to be terrible at the run D? So I mean, what I mean is we don't know on the schedule who's going to be the easy run defenses to play against. So I think he's the most confused. He's the hardest. He was one of the hardest people to rank for me. I had him lower before. I was worried about Damian Harris because the first preseason game, uh, he, it's Damian Harris, right? Yeah, Damian Harris looked pretty good, and because you always bring up that point, like even though Tariq Cohen's not there because he's dealing with an injury right now, that Damian Harris is still there. I wasn't too impressed with Damian Harris this second
No.
week.
It's not Damian Harris.
Yeah, I know that I'm
Damian
messing up.
Williams.
Damian Williams. There you go. Damian Williams. So Damian Williams looked really good the first preseason game, and I was a little bit worried about David Montgomery's usage. And
Damian Williams injured. I think honestly, the guy you have to worry about now is probably Khalil Herbert.
I'm not that worried.
Well, no, not about taking the job from Montgomery, but taking the job of Tariq Cohen or Damian Williams.
Okay.
I think he could come in and take that spot.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all know when Tariq Cohen comes back, his usage is, if he comes back, his usage would be in the receiving game, which lowers David Montgomery for PPR league setups. I would think for just standard, David Montgomery probably gets a boost. But yeah, so for now, I think 15 is a good spot for him. Yeah, not the most exciting number one RB on your team. Probably is better suited for RB2.
So I agree. And I think the next two players have the same profile. I think we could talk about both. We could just say the same thing and it could apply to both of them.
All right.
Do you agree off the bat or should we split them?
Let's group them together. I just have I have feelings about one of them, and you know.
Right, well, you can talk about them when we get to that. Yeah. We talk about Anthony's feelings. So at 23 and 24, we have Joe Mixon and Chris Carson. And for me, the reason why I put them together is if they're healthy, fantastic. And that's it. That's my analysis.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty good. That's pretty good analysis. I have them ranked one after the other. I have Chris Carson at 17, Joe Mixon at 18, and it's because I do like Chris Carson more. What I'm just pulling up now. So Chris Carson finished 17th last year overall, and then of course it's due not to him not being a talented back, but it's due to injury. Mixon found himself way lower because of injury as well.
And I think for both of them, especially this season, defenses have to respect the pass game now.
Right.
Both in Seattle and in Cincinnati.
I mean, Chris Carson missing time. I struggled with even ranking. I want to rank Chris Carson higher, but it's just his injury proneness. It is a big factor. But like I mentioned, last year he was injured. Maybe not as consistent as you would have liked him to be as well when he was in there, but he finished 17. So top 24. The year before, he played 15 games. He played some games hampered by injury, but he finished 11th. So the difference between him and Mixon is that when Carson is injured, when he's on the field, though, he is getting you crazy amounts of fantasy points per game. So Mixon finds himself outside the top 24, which is, 2019, Joe Mixon was 13th, and Joe Mixon played 16 games. So, I mean, Carson, for me, I rank him higher, even though they're the same player. I do think that the breakout factor and just the amount of fantasy points you'll get per game will be higher with Carson. But Mixon has the workload. There's nobody behind him.
Well,
nobody behind him in quotations.
Yeah. Draft strategy pro tip. If you draft either of these guys, you have to make sure you're getting backups.
Yeah.
Because, Chris Carson's almost guaranteed he's going to miss games at some point. The guy is an incredible athlete, but he smashes into people and he gets injured.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon just gets injured, but he's he's also a great athlete.
Yeah.
So just make sure you have depth behind these guys if you find yourself drafting them earlier on in your draft.
So. Yeah, and Moose says running back depth. He's not saying handcuffs. Right now, we don't know who their direct backup is. We know there's a whole bunch of them on Seattle. We don't know who's going to get the reps when or if Chris Carson is out. So Rashod Penny, we mentioned before, it's not looking too good. They have a couple other youngsters over there. DJ Dallas, I think, is one of them.
Yeah, Travis Homer. Well,
Yeah,
Alex
Alex
Collins
Collins.
is
Yeah,
the flavor of the month apparently in Seattle.
yeah,
Not from what I saw. If you like a guy who shakes his head and jumps side to side and calls it a deke, Alex Collins is your guy.
yeah. I mean, you did rank Carson up there. I was happy to see that because,
but that's it. There's nothing. Chris Carson, in terms of fantasy, is fantastic.
Yeah,
when he's on the field, but that's the thing. He's a bit of a liability. So, and I know we've spoken about this in a previous episode. If it's the same thing we were talking about, if you plan on drafting Saquon Barkley, you have to build your strategy around build the strategy around him not actually playing. Yeah. So if you draft Chris Carson, just pretend like you didn't draft him and keep drafting, because chances are he will miss time and you'll need a running back to replace him. Obviously we hope that he doesn't get injured and he's out there doing Chris Carson things and tearing it up, but that hasn't been the case. Most of the time he does miss a few games here and there. So if you want to be very successful with him on your team, you got to get backups.
Yeah. So that's our top 24. I do want to have some honorable mentions. Guys that we ranked, but they found themselves lower. So DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne would be our 25 and 26.
Very honorable.
Very honorable. We had them, obviously, for them to be not on our consensus top 24. It means we all ranked them pretty low in our individual rankings. So again, it's the backfield, just crowded backfield, and DeAndre Swift being on Detroit as well, not knowing if Jamal Williams is going to get most of the touches one game versus another. And then, so we won't dive deep into that. I just want to mention a person that, the Philly fans are going to be upset with us. I know you and I don't believe in Philadelphia, but I feel like
Philly fans are always upset.
Yeah, always upset. But Miles Sanders, I guess, would be a key name to mention that on a team where it seems like it's only him and Boston Scott, and we know Boston Scott's not going to be high up in fantasy finishes for running back. So, I mean, you and I are very low in Philly, and we're not believers in Miles Sanders' talent.
No, and he is talented, but Philly just does not look poised to be winning.
Yeah, he's a guy that if I see in a round when I'm drafting, I'm not even thinking about it.
Let that Philly fan in your league take him. Be excited. I mean, last year we had a hilarious scenario where in 1 week we said, "Don't take Miles Sanders, nothing's going to happen," and the whole game Miles Sanders was doing nothing. It was dismal, and then out of nowhere he breaks off an 85-yard run. So that's what your season's going to be like. You're going to have Miles Sanders in there, and maybe here and there, he'll have big games. But I think for the most part, you're going to be upset that you drafted him.
Yeah, and he finished, just to give people an idea, he finished 23rd last season. I think there's way more talented backs that have, the rookies that have come into the league and their situations are much better. There are guys like Austin Eckler, who was injured last season, that is going to hopefully be there the entire season. So he should find his way up there. So of guys to slide out of that top 24 finish, I think Miles Sanders could be the guy in it. And that's why I'm not going to rank him. That's why I'm not going to draft him. So
I'm not going to do it. All right. Should we get into the next segment?
Yes. Are we both going to make attempts again?
Oh, I don't know. Here we go. I'm going to go for mine. They said it already. How did that sound?
Good. That was pretty good. It was better than the last time. I think last time you rushed it.
Okay. I feel like I wasn't even saying words there. I'm not even sure if I said words. It was so high.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not even going to do mine because that one was pretty good. I don't want
to No. Come on now. Dave's not here. You got to do it too.
They said it on Reddit.
Very valiant effort. But I don't even know how good mine sounded. So let's just agree to disagree that both were terrible.
Well, I think it was better than the first time we did it. So kudos to us.
Dave, we need you back. We need you. We need that seamless voice.
The voice of angels.
All right, hit us with it.
All right, so this one is from user Mikey Mike 1016. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton is the header. How do you see these two wide receivers this season? Sutton coming off a torn ACL. Does Jeudy assume the wide receiver one role? So we did touch a little bit upon it when we were talking about the preseason games. I said I wasn't happy from what I saw from Jerry Jeudy in preseason week 1. And now week 2, he did look a lot better. He is, and with that being said, I do think he is the most talented receiver on the team. It's just depending on who the quarterback is, like you said, it's.
I was going to say, I was just about to say, this question is unanswerable until we know who the quarterback is. We know that Drew Lock, was peppering Cortland Sutton with the ball a ton. The season Cortland Sutton did well.
Yeah.
Right. And
right.
I would presume that Jerry Jeudy does come in and become the wide receiver one. However, I still think they're both going to have fantasy value. Yeah. And in fact, I think Dave brought this up the other day. I think the biggest thing you got to be worried about is the emergence of KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
Who also looks fantastic. But who knows? I think Drew Lock could support 3 wide receivers. Not sure Teddy Bridgewater could. So I think if Teddy comes in, maybe you will have to try to find it. It'll be a tough choice between Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. I would tend to lean towards Jerry Jeudy just because, he's the young rookie, absolutely fantastic. And I think Jerry Jeudy would be fantastic with both quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Whereas Cortland Sutton, I don't know. Did you see him play? Did he look like he was missing a step?
He's not playing right now because he's dealing
still healing. So
healing.
What are we, like 2 weeks out?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're drafting, you're taking Jerry Jeudy. Maybe you take Cortland Sutton super late if Cortland Sutton's the guy you want. Maybe he goes undrafted and just get ready to scoop him up on waiver wires when he comes back and he's healthy. Or scoop him up, put it on your IR. Let him sit on your injured reserve if you have one.
Yeah.
I did that last year with Deebo Samuel. It worked out really well for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, how I look at this, and maybe I'm like reading too much into certain things from last season with Jerry Jeudy. So when I look at Cortland Sutton, I won my dynasty season drafting Cortland Sutton because he was a young prospect and it paid off. So he has a rapport with Drew Lock. We know that if Drew Lock is the starting QB and Cortland Sutton starts week 1, they're going to be good to go. Cortland Sutton, you can trust him.
Okay, but hold on, Anthony, because I know where you're going with this. And you have to remember, last season, there was no preseason and Denver was recycling their quarterbacks. There was all those different guys. So week to week, the receivers are getting passes from backups all over the place. So I know where you're going with it, but I think it truly is a question mark until we see them play for real.
But it was leading a certain direction, but I think you're going to be surprised by what I'm going to say. Okay. So I do think Sutton will be the wide receiver 1, but I think Jeudy will play better than last year because one thing that I'm reading into from last season is Jerry Jeudy being the main guy there. It seemed like he couldn't handle the cornerbacks. Maybe the cornerbacks gave him a little bit more of a tough time, him being the lead guy over there. So I think with Cortland Sutton getting that attention now, it opens up the field for Jerry Jeudy. So I think Drew Lock, wide receiver 1, is Sutton, then it's Jeudy, then it's Hamler. If it goes Teddy Bridgewater, it seems like Teddy Bridgewater is building, because Cortland Sutton's not on the field and not really practicing, that Teddy Bridgewater's rapport with Jeudy is much better. And like I mentioned, this week 2, it's Teddy Bridgewater's connection to Jerry Jeudy that Jerry Jeudy made it was a great throw, great catch, yards after the catch. So, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, I say Judy's first.
Because I see Jeudy as being that big playability wide receiver.
Yeah.
But I worry that Teddy Bridgewater will launch it down the field to him.
Yes.
If you think about Robbie Anderson last season, I think all 3 of us were talking about this the other day. Same thing. Robbie Anderson's speedy, downfield weapon. I see the same with Jerry Jeudy. I'm just concerned that Teddy Bridgewater, maybe not the best accuracy, maybe not the best arm. might underutilize Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's what we have to say to this user Mikey Mike 1016. Right now, I guess it would be Jeudy since Cortland Sutton is not practicing, but I would say they're both going to do well with Drew Lock there. I don't think they will suffer because look, Teddy Bridgewater, like we said, won't throw much down the field, but DJ Moore had a great season. Robbie Anderson had a great season last year in Carolina. So we know two wide receivers could live or be successful fantasy options with Teddy Bridgewater under center. It might suffer a little bit more for KJ Hamler, where we see Drew Lock loves airing the ball out. So, I mean, KJ Hamler probably has more value. So we're looking deeper. But I would say that Sutton, if healthy, is the number one guy. So,
yeah. And honestly, if you're high on both these guys, try to get a feel of how other people in your league are thinking about Cortland Sutton. Like I said, maybe nobody drafts him, and you pick him up in the last round, put him on your injured reserve, just pick up another player off the waiver wire right after the draft, and then you sit Cortland Sutton there until he's healthy, comes back, and then boom, if he ends up being the guy, you've got him.
Yeah, and we talk about, like, I know that a lot of smaller players are successful in the NFL, but Cortland Sutton, I think, will be the number one if healthy with either quarterback too, because he's 6'4", 216 pounds. This guy is going to be such a threat in the red zone. The guy's going to get touchdowns. His big season in 2019, 1,012 yards, 6 TDs. And I mean, he does do a little bit of rushing as well. So, I mean, he's the guy. Judy's the big play guy. So I would say Cortland Sutton is number one. But right now, if you're drafting early, if you're drafting now, Cortland Sutton's falling later because of his injury. So that's a high value pick later on in drafts.
And people might even just forget about him.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's thank you, Mikey Mike and the 1016s. Right? Was it?
Yeah,
Marky Mark and the somethings?
Mikey Mike. Oh, yeah, it was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So, Anthony, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? What are you watching on TV?
So, I'm having a Bitburger.
Oh.
And a Boobly because when we do the podcast, I turn off the AC unit and I sweat a lot. So I need to stay a little hydrated as well with some water. And what I'm watching, I mean, watched Hard Knocks.
I haven't seen the second episode yet.
Okay, so I won't get into it. We can maybe talk about it next episode. But what am I watching?
I'll tell you what people should be listening to. Us. Okay. On our live show on Wednesday on the Halftime Sports app at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
Join us. You can ask all your questions live. We'll let you come up on stage. You can be like, Anthony, I don't like your take. Moose, you're a champion. I love it. I'm kidding. Anthony's also a champion. It's only going to be the two of us.
Yeah. It's only going to be the two of us. There might be another appearance maybe from Seeger who showed up. And then, I mean, even if you feel that we're excluding players and not talking about the players, bring them up.
Yeah.
We'll analyze them.
Link in the description.
Yes. Link in the description. So, we look forward to hearing from you guys, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was rewatching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies because
it's Caribbean.
The Caribbean. Yes. Caribbean.
I think you could say it either way.
Pirates of the Caribbean movies or Caribbean movies. And yeah, they're okay. I guess the third one was a little confusing. I know there was 4. I haven't watched the 4th one yet. The third one's a little confusing, kind of like trying to figure out who's on what boat at what time.
I have a funny story about this.
Okay.
Actually, Dave and I were just talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
For a while, one of the cinemas in Point Claire had like 2 a.m. shows, or it was like 1 a.m. shows, whatever, super late shows. And I remember we saw Nacho Libre and maybe another movie, but I remember going to see Pirates of the Caribbean, the third one. And I was exhausted. Like I was so tired. And I remember I fell asleep and I woke up and everybody's dead in the movie. And And I was like, what? Like, what is going on? And they're like some kind of alternate universe, whatever. And like one of these things where I was like, well, I've lost the story. I'm going back to bed. So I remember passing out again and then waking up and then everybody's alive again.
Yeah. So
and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this movie?
So basically how the second one ended, Johnny Depp or Jack Sparrow was killed by the Kraken. And then
they got to go to Davy Jones's locker.
Exactly. So he's not actually dead. It's just like a punishment, like limbo type thing. And they all go there and they got to flip the ships and everything. And then they see other dead people going to the, so it was crazy.
Chaos.
But then after that, everybody's like double crossing each other. And you're like, wait, who's on whose side? And then you're like, wait, he's on that boat. When did he get on that boat? And then you're like, who's on whose side now? So it was all over the place. But I mean, they're exciting movies. Yeah. I know what I like. They started releasing now, jumping over to, well, this is also on Disney, so I'm watching these movies on Disney. But the Marvel What If, or I think that's what it's called, the What Ifs. I think there's 2 episodes out. I haven't watched any of them yet. I haven't really had time. Like I put on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and do whatever around the house, but those I want to sit down and actually watch when I'm not doing anything. So yeah. Apparently they're good.
I haven't watched anything new.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not very exciting. But
what are you drinking?
Oh, I thought I said I'm just drinking a Heineken.
Okay.
Nothing special.
Refreshing.
A classic. So I think this is the part where Dave goes, "Thanks for listening. See you next time."
Ciao.